What would happen if one man stood before millions of his fellow citizens and declared that he was building a paradise? A paradise without injustice. A paradise where people live for the collective. A socialist paradise. But within that very paradise, people must line up from early morning just to buy a loaf of bread, while the man at the peak of power lives like an emperor. This is not a historical hypothesis. This is Romania under Nicolae Ceaușescu. In 1965, Nicolae Ceaușescu rose to the pinnacle of power in the Romanian Communist Party. At that time, many believed he was a new face. A young leader, tough toward the Soviet Union, daring to assert independence within the socialist bloc. The West welcomed him. The press called him the one who defied Moscow. The Romanian people hoped that after many years living in the shadow of Stalin and Brezhnev, their country might find a different path. But history sometimes does not change direction. It merely changes the hand holding the whip. Very quickly, Ceausescu understood one thing. Power does not need to be shared. Power needs to be worshipped. From that moment, a cult of personality began to form, slowly but inevitably. Ceausescu's name appeared everywhere. In textbooks. In speeches. In every achievement, no matter how small. He was no longer just a leader. He was called the genius of the Carpathians. The father of the nation. The great intellect guiding Romania. And beside him stood Elena Ceausescu, a wife no less powerful. A woman with almost no academic background. Yet promoted as one of the world's leading scientists. Granted titles, awards, and international honors through political influence. Romania gradually ceased to be a state. It became the property of the Ceausescu family. Meanwhile, the lives of ordinary people began to change in a very different way. During the 1970s, and especially the 1980s, Romania entered a period of brutal austerity. Ceausescu was determined to repay all foreign debt at any cost. At any cost here meant the lives of the people. Food was distributed by ration cards. Meat, milk, and sugar became luxuries. People waited in line for hours, even all day, just to buy a minimal amount of food. Electricity was cut frequently. In winter, indoor temperatures were strictly limited. Many families wore coats inside their living rooms. While outside, snow covered the streets of Bucharest. Yet at that very moment, the Ceausescu family lived in a completely different world. They owned dozens of residences across the country. Resorts forbidden to ordinary citizens. Private aircraft were always ready to take them anywhere. And the peak of that extravagance was the Palace of the People. A colossal structure, the second largest building in the world after the Pentagon. To build it, entire historic neighborhoods were flattened. Tens of thousands of people were forced from their homes. The money, materials, and labor of an entire nation were poured into a single symbol. Ceausescu's ego. That luxury was not merely moral decay. It was a public humiliation. For millions of people who were cold and hungry. But if it had only been poverty, history might not have remembered Ceausescu as one of Europe's most notorious dictators. What turned Romania into a giant prison was the Securitate. The Securitate was not just a secret police force. It was the nervous system of the regime. Hundreds of thousands of informants were embedded throughout society. They could be your colleagues, your neighbors, even members of your own family. Telephones were tapped. Letters were opened and read. Casual remarks at the dinner table could become evidence against you. In Romania at that time, silence was not safety. Silence could also be seen as betrayal. Fear did not need to scream. It crept in, sank deep, and forced people to censor even their own thoughts. People did not only fear the government, they feared each other. And then, December 1989 arrived. Ceausescu believed he still controlled everything. He organized a massive rally in Bucharest. Thousands were mobilized. The familiar script. The crowd applauds. The leader smiles. Power is reaffirmed. Ceausescu stepped onto the balcony. He began to speak. But this time, the crowd did not follow the script. Boos erupted. At first scattered. Then spreading. On Ceausescu's face, confusion appeared for the first time. He did not understand what was happening. In that moment, fear that had lasted for decades shattered in just a few seconds. The revolution exploded. The army turned its back. The Securitate lost control. Ceausescu and his wife fled by helicopter. But they could not escape history. They were captured, tried in a summary court, and executed on Christmas Day, 1989. There was no final speech. No legend. Only gunshots. And the collapse of a regime built on fear. Romania needed decades to recover. Psychological wounds cannot heal overnight. But the story of Ceausescu leaves a chilling lesson for human history. No luxury can last forever. On the poverty of an entire nation, no apparatus of repression is stronger than the moment people stop being afraid. And power, when left unchecked, will always destroy itself. If you want to continue listening to stories about dictatorships, about people who once seemed untouchable, but ultimately fell before history, stay with us. History has never lacked lessons like these.